Global Strategic Assessment, late February 2026. 1. U.S. Domestic Policy and Border Security. The State of the Union. President Donald Trump delivered a 108-minute State of the Union address, breaking his own record for the longest presidential speech to Congress. During the address, he promised a ratepayer protection pledge, negotiated with major tech companies, and claimed the U.S. economy was roaring, despite economic data showing it grew at roughly the same pace in 2025 as in 2024. He also lashed out at Congresswomen Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib following their protests during his speech. The War on Fraud. Vice President J.D. Vance was placed in charge of a new War on Fraud initiative. Immediately following this appointment, Vance announced a halt to Medicaid health payments in Minnesota. Immigration and enforcement. Immigration enforcement continues to generate severe domestic friction. In Buffalo, New York, a near-blind Rohingya refugee was found dead after being released by U.S. Border Patrol into the cold. In a separate incident, the mayor of Newark stated that an active ICE operation caused a multi-vehicle crash resulting in injuries. The Epstein fallout. Controversy regarding the Jeffrey Epstein files continues, as reports reveal the released documents are missing records related to a woman who made claims against Trump and Epstein when she was a minor. Concurrently, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew, has been banned from horseback riding by royal aides following his recent arrest for misconduct in public office. 2. Geopolitics and international conflict. Middle East brinkmanship. U.S. and Iranian negotiators are scheduled to meet in Geneva for nuclear talks. Hopes for a breakthrough remain slim as Washington continues to amass military forces in the Middle East, while U.S. officials like Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance explicitly warn of the military threat posed by Tehran. Gaza reconstruction. Bulgarian diplomat Nikolai Mladenov has been tasked with leading President Trump's Board of Peace as the High Representative for Gaza, overseeing the implementation of a U.S.-brokered peace plan. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Israel, addressing the Knesset and receiving praise from PM Benjamin Netanyahu, a move that tests India's delicate balancing act in the region. The war in Ukraine. Amid the ongoing conflict, President Trump approved a leader-level meeting between Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, which Zelensky called the only way to finally end the war. On the ground, Ukraine has begun deploying anti-drone netting across its front lines, while Kyiv residents are pooling money for solar panels and batteries to survive severe Russian strikes on the energy grid. Cuba maritime clash. The U.S. government has eased restrictions to allow the resale of Venezuelan oil to Cuba in response to a worsening humanitarian crisis. However, tensions remain extremely high, underscored by an incident where the Cuban Coast Guard killed 4 heavily armed exiles who attacked them from a U.S.-registered speedboat. 3. Asia-Pacific posturing. North Korea's ultimatum. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stated that Pyongyang could improve ties with the U.S. if Washington respects its nuclear status. Conversely, he hardened his stance against Seoul, officially labeling South Korea as his country's most hostile enemy. Hong Kong legal rulings. In a rare legal victory, a Hong Kong appeals court quashed the fraud conviction of pro-democracy media baron Jimmy Lai, though he remains imprisoned under the city's sweeping national security law. Separately, the father of a US-based Hong Kong activist was sentenced to 8 months in prison under the same security law. 4. Technology, AI, and cybersecurity. The Pentagon's AI push. The U.S. military is aggressively pursuing commercial artificial intelligence capabilities. The Pentagon is demanding complete access to models developed by the AI startup Anthropic, overriding the company's internal safety and ethical concerns. Corporate moves. OpenAI aggressively recruited and hired Ruoming Pang, the former head of AI infrastructure for Meta's Superintelligence Labs. In Europe, Google is testing changes to its search results, prioritizing top-ranked rivals by default, to appease the European Commission and avoid massive fines under the Digital Markets Act. Meanwhile, Chinese scientists developed a revolutionary 3D printing technique capable of solidifying liquid into objects in under a second. Cyber espionage and hacks. The cyber domain is highly active. A former employee of U.S. defense contractor L3 Harris, Peter Williams, was sentenced to over 7 years in prison for selling 8 zero-day exploits to a Russian broker known as Operation Zero. Additionally, an amateur hacker utilizing generative AI compromised over 600 FortiGate firewall devices, targeting backups for potential ransomware attacks. In Asia, a Chinese official accidentally revealed a secret operation to ChatGPT, exposing a smear campaign aimed at the Japanese Prime Minister. 5. Economy, resources, and environment. Trade and tariffs. A U.S. trade chief confirmed that President Trump plans to hike global tariffs to 15% where appropriate. Oil and minerals. Kazakhstan's crude oil and gas condensate production jumped by 12% in 2025, driven largely by the massive expansion of the Tengiz oil field. In Africa, Zimbabwe announced an immediate freeze on all raw mineral and lithium concentrate exports to tighten state control over clean energy resources. Climate and disasters. Extreme weather is causing global disruptions. In Brazil, at least 43 people are missing and 46 are dead following severe floods and landslides in Minas Gerais. Concurrently, the city of Cape Town, South Africa, is raising alarms about a potential drought scenario as local dam levels have fallen to 55%.